finally got me some free time, and yeah, I thought we would discuss, because we had a lot of snowfall yesterday, we will discuss basically how to safely drive in a fun way now in winter when we got snow and slippery roads and stuff, because contrary to popular belief, safety and fun is not opposites. They can be had together. You just have to know what and how to work them in order to have both at the same time. So I am out here with my C30. We got a lot of snow on the ground, and yeah, we're just gonna have some fun and talk about how you can have that fun in a safe manner. Of course, I'm 19 years old. I'm not a professional driver by any means, but I believe I have a pretty rational and logically sound mind, at least most of the time, and I think I have a pretty good viewpoint on this. So right now I'm driving on a very familiar road to me. I've driven it a million times before. I know every turn and straight all the way through, and I'm just driving along here going the speed limit, which is completely safe, right? Right now there is one car far ahead of me. I have no cars behind me. That means I'm not at much risk of causing harm to anyone else, because we want to make sure that if we cause harm to anyone, we do it to just ourselves, because we are the ones doing what we're doing. Therefore, we don't want to involve anyone else in that in case something should go wrong, which usually doesn't, but of course you never know what could happen. So just be safe and make sure there's no one around you. The first thing we need to understand is what car we're driving. So this car that I'm driving, Volvo C30, front-wheel drive hatchback, which means that front wheels do a lot of things. They do power, they do braking, they do turning, and the rear wheels are just braking and stuff. So we need to understand that when you're on throttle going through a corner, you will put a lot more load on the front tires, which means that if you plant your throttle going through a corner on a slippery surface, you will understeer, which means the car will go straight even if you're turning, which I had a bit too much grip to do there. That means that in order to not get understeer, you want to be progressive on the throttle and maybe just let off slightly as you go through a corner. Another thing that, like a typical hot hatch thing, which is one of the fun things with a hot hatch, is lift off oversteer, which, if you don't know, that means that you're shifting the weight from the weight of the car forwards by engine braking or braking. That means that the weight is going to go forwards on the front wheels, and you're not going to send power through them because you're letting off the throttle as you're doing it. So that is understeer, but you don't have to understeer all over the place, because what you do with your inputs to the car determines how the car is going to behave. Another thing, so a lot of cars just in general are set up to be understeer biased, which means the car will prefer to understeer over oversteering, just because it is technically a safer like sliding balance, because people are just going to, when people like normal people, when they get in a panicked situation, they will just stamp on the brakes, and that will load the front wheels and hopefully give them a bit more weight over the front wheels, which will grip as they're understeering, so they will gain grip. Whereas oversteering means that the rear end of the car is going to slide out, like so, and that is going to need you to correct the slide. And if you brake, that will just not help, that will make it worse, because if you brake while the car is sliding with the rear end, you're just going to make it go even harder into the slide. And that's why you need to understand oversteer before you try to do it. So one of the typical like hot hatch things is lift off oversteer, which is what it's called. Means that you are going to shift the weight of the car forwards, which is going to make the rear end light. So here I'm going on the throttle through the corners, lifting out the throttle and giving the steering wheel a just like twitch in the corner, and that makes the rear end go light, and because the weight is shifted forwards, you're going to have a lot of grip on the front wheels, so they are going to turn in, but you have less grip on the rear wheels, which means they're going to go light and it will slide out. And then you just have to correct it. This car, a Volvo, you can't turn off traction and stability. You can turn off traction control, but you can't turn off stability control, which means that it will try to catch you even if you turn the systems off. Like here it says the STC off, but it's not actually off. It's more like a sports mode, kind of. So I'm just going to give some demonstrations of what I mean here. Okay, let's go. Hopefully we got no cars here, so we can do some demonstration. So now traction control is off. I'm just spinning the wheels if I give throttle. So first I'm going to demonstrate understeer and hopefully not crash, because that would be a bit inconvenient, wouldn't it? So now I am turning the wheel. Nothing's happening, I'm just going straight, as you see. So that's understeer. The front wheels are just overloaded, they can't really do anything. You can turn and nothing happens. So here comes a car, we're going to slow down because we don't want to endanger anyone else, because that's the safety aspect of this. Then up here, as long as we don't have any cars, I'm going to show you some lift off oversteer again. So we're going to go through the corner with throttle on. We're going to lift off and give it twitch, and there just the car slides out nicely, just like that. I will also mention that this car, I have installed a hard race upgraded sway bar in the rear, which does actually shift the balance very nicely from a safe understeer balance, which this car is set up with originally, and it shifts it to a more oversteer, or like more neutral balance really, where you can kind of decide if you want understeer or oversteer. Of course, after you have come to learn the car. Okay, that's a car, let's not take it too much here. And yeah, so like that's a bit of an awkward situation, because you don't want to be doing that when there is a car coming. But I went out of it as fast as I could, because I could see the car was coming, or I couldn't see the car was coming, and then I saw it, and so I backed out of it at once. So just try to make sure there's no one around when you're playing with weight of the car. That is basically what you want to remember. And of course, understanding these subjects will also make you a safer driver when you are trying to do them, because you don't want to try to do it without having any understanding of what you're trying to do. So a lot of people, young people, will just I'm going to go out and drift, but they don't really know what drifting actually is all about. It's about weight transfer, it's about feeling the car, feeling how it's behaving on the road, and throttle control and steering control and everything. So I'm just going to pull in here and let all the cars pass, because we don't want any cars near us when we're doing this. I guess I did not pick the best time of day for doing this, but we just have to be patient. Now you sort of understand what we're trying to do, but how can this make you a better driver? That's something I like to focus on, because there's so much talk about maniacs on the road and people who do stupid things, and I will admit that doing this is inherently stupid. It is, but it's a hobby, and there's literally nowhere else we can go to do this, so therefore we just have to make the best of it and try to be as safe as possible here on the road. But learning this could, at any time on these roads, it could literally save you from an accident, because most people, if their cars do start to slide without them, they're just going along and the car starts sliding and they just panic, they don't know what to do. Whereas if you learn this, you know what to do. If your car steps out, you know that you have to counter steer, and because you've practiced it many times, you will instinctively just know how much you need to counter steer, because a lot of people, when they panic and they oversteer, they will just they will overcorrect, which means they will go way too much to one of the other sides, and the car will end up on the side of the road in a ditch or in a mountain wall or whatever. And that's why these things really should be taught in driving school, at least in these climates where we have a lot of snow in winter. I know in Finland you literally have to learn to drift or like to control and correct an oversteer event in order to get your license. I think that's brilliant, because you want people to know what to do if they are in a situation where it happens. Then they can go out and say as much as they want, just drive slowly, drive slowly, drive slowly. But people are not going to do that. I've seen a lot of people now, when there's snow like this, they go the same speed that they did before it started snowing. So they will go slow in summer when you have very good driving conditions. They will go slowly in terms compared to what you could do on that road, whereas here in winter they will literally be pushing the limits without even knowing it, because they're just driving the same pace which they do in summer. So in summer I never get the car behind me, because I'm just going 80 through all the corners, and there's a lot of 80 speed limits around here. But here in snow, people are still going 60, 70 in those same corners, but on the snow, and they just don't seem to understand that the grip level is just completely different. I could probably take the same corners at 4 times the speed I'm doing here on my summer setup, because because this car is very, very good in summer, and it has a very, very good setup on it right now. But still, it is just a universal thing that you have to drive differently in winter, and people just don't know how to do it properly. And of course, I do have to do the obligatory Volvo C30 rant, which this car is so amazing. Literally. There's no words. Amazing in the summer, amazing in the winter. So controllable. This car is lowered. It's, as I said, it has a upgraded sway bar, and all of that just makes for this incredible setup. And it's just, you can feel every single thing that the car is doing. You can control the throttle exactly as you want. Brakes are so progressive. Steering, as long as you have the right tires, is just so communicative. You feel the chassis. You just feel what the car is doing. You feel connected. If you go some parts of the road where you have the right side of the car will be on ice maybe, and the left side of the car will be on asphalt. You can feel how the different sides of the car is communicating with the road. It's just bonkers. I don't even know what to say. And of course, there is probably a lot of cars that are like this, but this is definitely one of them, and that has to be praised in and of itself, because any car that gives you this needs praise. Because this car in front of me, it's a big Porsche Macan or something like that, and that's what people buy nowadays. The big or mid-sized SUVs and trucks, whatever, they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger cars. This is what driving is all about. Of course you want something that's practical, but hello, wagons, they do all that SUVs do, but they're better handling, they're lower to the road, they're oftentimes they have better ride quality even. So just why? Or actually I do know why. It's because of the stupid EU rules, which makes it so that it's easier for car manufacturers to build big cars than it is to build small cars. But that's another thing completely, and that's not something I'm going to get into here, because that would just get me even more riled up. Let's not do a handbrake slide, because there's a car coming the other way, and we don't want to be seen as maniacs, do we? We're just literally trying to practice our hobby and doing it in a safe manner again. But just, I can't stress enough how important it is to think about safety when you're doing this, you doing your hobby, just going out driving a car in whichever conditions. Safety is the most important part of it. You want to come home safely, and you don't want everyone else on the road to come home safely. That doesn't mean that you have to be driving very, very slowly all the time. You just need to understand what you're doing, and you need to think consequence. What could happen if I do this? What's the chance of something happening if I do this? Do I have enough experience to do this? That's all things that you need to be thinking of. You need to think, how is my tire going to react to this surface here? You want to give some throttle, see how is the car responding to some throttle here? How's the brakes working here? How much braking force have I got? How much turning in can I do before I start sliding? All of these things, there's things that have to be in the back of your mind. You don't even have to be like thinking about them like specifically. You just have to have them in the back of your mind, and that's going to help so much in just all driving conditions. And of course, most important of all, when you're driving, you're not watching your phone, you're not fiddling with anything on the car, you're driving, and that's all your head needs to be focused on. Because I am prepared to almost bet that over 50% of accidents that are contributed to a speeding are just a lack of awareness when driving, because you need to be aware when driving, or else you're going to end up in a crash or in a wall or something. Your mind needs to be in the moment, and having a nice handling car that's just brilliant to drive is going to help you with doing exactly that. Because if you're just driving around in a big SUV, just like I'm king of the road, I have all the space, I'm going to be completely safe if I crash, that's not going to give you the concentration you need. You want a car that makes you want to drive, because that's going to make you so much more aware of what you're doing. And as you can probably hear, I'm very passionate about this, but it is just so true. Because a great car is just going to help you and help everyone so much, because it's just so important. Like the car is pretty much the thing the two like really big expenses people have often in their lives are like a house and a car. So you want to have a good car, because you don't want to buy something dreary and just stupid. You want to have something that communicates with you, and that is just something you want to get into and drive. At least for us who are into cars, like some people, they just want a comfortable car, but you can still have a comfortable car that is engaging to drive. And I think that would just solve so many problems if people were actually engaged in driving. Like what would you rather have? Would you have a car going down this road going 60 kilometers an hour on their phone, not paying attention at all to what's happening in front of them? Or do you want someone driving 100 kilometers an hour, almost double the speed limit, but they're actually paying attention to what's happening in front of them? I would hands down go with 100 kilometers an hour, but he's actually paying attention, rather than 60 kilometers an hour and he's just not aware at all. Because speed doesn't kill. Not being aware does kill. But of course you need a certain speed to be killed during a crash. But it's not the speed's fault, it's the person who is choosing that speed and not being aware of their surroundings, and that not being aware of their surroundings makes them go too fast because they don't know which speed is right, because they're not paying attention. But that's probably enough for me. I've probably ranted on about way too long. Anyways, yeah, I've said my part. Go out and have some fun, because that's what the car hobby is all about. Do some lift-off oversteering, it is just brilliant. And yeah, safe travels, be safe, have fun. Yeah, have a good like Christmas holiday for those of you who celebrate Christmas. And that's gonna be it from me today, and I will see you in the next one after I've done some more fun driving, because like the 5-cylinder is just great. I haven't talked about that yet. I had to get that in there. Bye.